Religion can be a very bad thing, or it can be used as a very bad thing. And if that sounds like kind of like a weird thing to hear from a priest or a shocking thing to hear from a priest, that's exactly what the gospel is about today. Jesus does not say, beware of false professors. He doesn't say beware of false salesmen. He doesn't say beware of false politicians. He says beware of false prophets. Beware of somebody speaking on behalf of religion who's a liar. This is what Jesus is saying here. So this is not a joke. This is something that Jesus himself is addressing. He knows that religion, even the religion that he's preaching, the true faith, he's saying to his followers, people who are going to be representing your faith are going to be not just liars, not just false, but wolves, who are going to use religion to take advantage of you for profit of some kind or another. That's a fact that Jesus anticipated, probably because he saw it in his day, but also wanted to warn his own followers about. False prophets means people who will take advantage of religion for profit. And Jesus is saying those people exist, and you should be aware of them. Okay, so this is not like, Jesus is not going to tell us something that's going to hurt our faith or something like that. He is telling us something that's going to be beneficial. He is telling us not to be naive. And just because somebody comes in the name of religion does not mean we should trust them. This is from Christ himself. This is not some bitter, sort of formerly religious person who gave up their faith. This is Christ who's saying this. So what does it mean? Well, let's take a look at the way he phrases this. They'll come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. So they'll come looking innocent. Their look will be pure, like a lamb, like a sheep. Something that is going to be not just innocent, but harmless. And on the inside, they're going to be ravenous wolves. So they'll look to you as if they're just, very pure, very helpful, very innocent, very sort of gentle beings. But on the inside, what their intention is to eat. Well, how do you tell? Then he changes the metaphor very quickly. The metaphor goes from animals to plants right away. And he says, you will know them by their fruits. What does that mean? Well, he explains it quickly in the next passage. You will know them by their fruits means you will not know them by their words. That's really important to say. Even a false prophet can say a true thing. I didn't mean to point at myself when I said false prophet. I don't know. Even a false prophet can say a true thing. So just because somebody's words not just are sweet or are beautiful to listen to, but even if they're right, that doesn't mean that their intention is good. And on the contrary, this is also just as important. Just because somebody turns out to be a ravenous wolf doesn't mean that what they said is wrong. You guys seeing that? So immediately Jesus is saying, first step is separate what they say from their fruits. Now, what is it to have a fruit? To bear fruit? Well, I'll get to that in a second. Let's look at this next passage. He says, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Okay, so it's not about words, Lord, Lord. It's not about saying holy things. There's nothing wrong with that. I hope I say holy things sometimes. I hope, we all say things that have, and I hope we mean it when we say it. But Jesus is saying, don't be fooled by that, because sometimes people can use sort of holy sounding speech to cover up something rotten inside. There's nothing wrong at all. When somebody says, how you doing? I usually say okay or whatever. I kind of, get over that quickly. But if somebody says, I'm blessed, all right, that's nice. But if you don't say that, it's not this evil thing. And just because somebody says, instead of saying I'm fine or I'm well, they say blessed, that doesn't mean there's anything good going on in them either. It's not a bad thing. But it's not the words that are going to make us holy or not. It's not the words that are going to determine whether we are good trees or not. Words are not fruits. What are fruits? Well, you would think that it's some deeds that we do, good works that we do. And yet he says, on that day, many will say to me, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name and cast out demons in your name and do many mighty works in your name, miracles? And he answers, I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you evildoers. So those aren't the works that Jesus is looking for. Amazing. Prophecy, casting out demons, doing miracles, flashy stuff that's going to get attention. That's not the fruit that Jesus is talking about. Really interesting. What is it then? What are the good fruits that Jesus is looking for? Well, I hope, or maybe you should be, one thing that we should be sort of asking right now is, not so much, how do I tell if somebody else is a false prophet? What about myself? Maybe that's the question we need to ask in the middle. How do I know I'm a good tree? Or maybe I'm a ravenous wolf and I'm fooling myself. Because religion can be a bad thing, because it can be used to trick ourselves, not just others. And we can trick ourselves into thinking we're the best people in the world because we go to church, because we say prayers, because we say holy things, because we do sort of flashy holy things so that people can look at us and say how holy we are. And religion can corrupt us when we use it to disguise what's on the inside. And that's what Jesus is talking about. So the question is not only, how do I know when somebody else is a false prophet? The first question is, how do I know when I am? And that's a harder question to answer. Because it's very easy to fool ourselves. The question comes down to, what do we mean when we say fruit? Do we say, Lord, Lord, but then act like a wolf to everybody else? What does it mean that we act like a wolf? Well, one way to know that we're a wolf is when nobody is important to you unless they can do something for you. That they're not interesting unless you can make some kind of profit off of them, unless you can get something out of them. That's one way to know that you maybe are more of a wolf than you think. When somebody that you can't profit from, maybe it doesn't even have to be money, that you can't profit from in some way or another, that they can't do anything for you. If somebody who can't do anything for you is non-existent or is boring or is not worth your attention, you might be more of a wolf than you think. And one of the signs of that in our world is, what about the people who are less able to work? Next door we have Good Samaritan, this retirement center. These are the elderly. These people their bodies are old. They're less able to do things that are profitable. How often do you spend time with somebody like that? How often do you pay attention to and try to help somebody who really can't pay you back? Maybe we have a special needs mass today at 2:30. Or are these people that you just get it over with as fast as you can? Maybe it's your own parents or grandparents. Maybe it's your own children. And you get it over with as fast as you can to move on to something or somebody more interesting. And they're interesting to you because they can get you what you want. And if that's where you're at, maybe you are kind of a wolf. So it's not just clergy that are the issue here. It's not just priests and bishops that Jesus is warning us to pay attention to. Maybe it's us. Maybe it's our own hearts. What does it mean to be a good tree as opposed to a wolf? Let's kind of just combine these two metaphors. What does it mean for me to be a good tree and bear good fruit as opposed to being a wolf? It's actually very, very, very simple. When you're a good tree, you feed. And when you're a wolf, you eat. And if your heart is concerned with feeding others, the tree doesn't eat fruit. Trees do not eat their own fruit. Trees bear fruit, okay, for reproduction and all that, but the idea of fruit is for other things to eat, for something other than themselves. If that's where your heart is at, then you're a tree at that moment. And if 5 minutes later, your heart is about eating, what can I get out of this? And if I don't get something out of it, I've been told this many times actually. Somebody comes and will ask me something and I'm unable to do it for whatever reason, and they say to me, "Tamaknafat." Like, what are you for then? Wow, thanks. That's not what I said. I said worse things back, but you know. If that's your attitude, then you're a wolf at that moment. Then you are only interested in somebody that can do something for you. So what then? Now here we get to something, the sort of punchline. I think what Christ wants us to realize is that all of us are wolves. We are all selfish, greedy beings that are concerned with our own food. And this is where religion is the best thing. And even if it can be manipulated and used and turned into propaganda for profit, it is only religion, it's only the faith, it's only Catholicism where I, knowing that I'm a wolf, can come and beg forgiveness from God in the confessional and receive that forgiveness. And then come to the altar and be fed and filled with the body of Christ, so that now that I am full, I don't have to worry about feeding anymore. I don't need to worry about eating anymore. And now I can concern myself and turn my heart towards giving others nourishment. And there, only through the grace of Christ can we transform ourselves, or be transformed, from a ravenous wolf into a fruit-bearing tree.